Hi guys. In our previous video, we learned about the Hiccup library, which converts Java data structures in the forms of vectors into HTML for us. And in this video, I'm going to continue on that, but I'm going to show how we can actually incorporate this into our handler. Okay. So the first thing is in the interim between these two videos, I learned that the version of Hiccup that does the proper escaping to avoid that script injection attack I demonstrated is actually in a different namespace. It's in a namespace called Hiccup 2. Okay, so we change our namespace here to hiccup2.core. We say comma er, and now we have a problem. If you see here, there's an error in our evaluation. It says that the function HTML already refers to Hiccup core, and we're trying to redefine it to a different function. And just this namespace block, when we reevaluate that, it doesn't let us, for some reason, doesn't let us evaluate or replace functions with different ones. So this, I run across this very rarely in Clojure code, but there's a nice little way you can do this. I mean, you could shut down your whole REPL and restart it, but that's a little too painful for what we need to do. So what we can use is you can use a function called ns unmap. Star ns star is our current namespace, and quote HTML is the name of the symbol that we want to unmap. This basically just removes the definition, the current definition of HTML from the current namespace. So comma er, and that works okay. We can see here. No error, return null. Okay, that's good stuff. Now if I go back up here, comma er, and now this one succeeds. Okay, we can now just get rid of this. We won't need that again. Okay, so let's get our let's move over to Hiccup in our handler. So what we want to do is we want to change this to HTML. Now one problem is before we just had a string that didn't really have an owning tag, and that's one constraint that we have. See up here we have a root tag. There always has to be a root tag here because it has to be a vector. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this one. So YAF, yank a form. Okay. I go to here and I'm going to say Shift P to put the form there. I'm just going to clean out this stuff. And then I'm going to change this to me. Okay, and if I really like my exclamation mark, I can put it here. And this div, this is the end of my div. So I'm just making sure that I got it just inside the end. So this div has a string. It has a child tag that's a B with a name, and then it's got another string that's an exclamation. Okay. Now, an interesting thing here that I also learned is that you have to wrap this. So comma I, str. So in certain cases, this HTML function doesn't return you a string. It returns you some other data structure that we need to pass through str to convert it to a string. I don't know why they do that. Sounds like a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. We won't have to deal with this very often. I'll show you how. We won't have to worry about that soon. But anyways, so let's go comma er, reeval our handler, back to our web server, refresh, and now we see instead of popping up an alert, it escapes our HTML for us. So we just see this here. So that's good. We've covered our scripting vulnerability, and better still, we have a good way to deal with our HTML structures. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just say CI, oh here, I'm going to change this back to Bobo, er, back here, refresh, and now we've got a good web server returning Bobo. Okay, so before we finish off here, again, I think at the end of each lesson, we'll get into the habit of committing to Git. So taking another snapshot, taking another commit in Git so that it freezes our, takes a snapshot of our code in a working state. So I've got to remember to write. Sometimes you get into this evaling forms and you forget you actually got to write it to disk sometimes. So, and then I'll start up a new terminal. and I will say git status. Okay, now git status tells us that deps Eden got modified. We know that because we added Hiccup. Tells our main function got modified, of course. Um, and there's nothing in the ntrack files that we care about. nREPL port is just a side effect of our REPL running. We can ignore that. Um, so we see here that the things that we want to commit are the things that are in this list. So one thing we can do is we can just, there's a shortcut to add anything that has changed that Git already knows about. We just can do this. We can just go straight to git commit -a, means any modified files that I already know about, -m for our message, and our message is something like added Hiccup library. You know, anything, you just remember that this string here is for your use. It's for, so you can go back in your history to, figure out if you were curious about something changed, or you're trying to find a bug that you introduced in the past. So don't just put changes here. Like, try to make this a meaningful name for the changes that you actually did. So here's added Hiccup library. But it doesn't have to, it shouldn't be very long. Like, maybe about no more than about that long. Okay. So git commit -a -m takes all our changes and just puts them in. We see there's 2 files changed, and then we're good. And we can actually see git log. So now we see that here's our initial commit. So it still remembered that one, and now added Hiccup library. And we could go back and look at what changed in these things, or we could look at what the code looked like back in the old days when we started. It's pretty neat. So that's it for this video.